Okay, this is Sue Frederick, and we are about to begin our sacred numerology class in April of 2024, and I am happy to be alive and happy to be with all of you. So I'm going to mute everyone, and we are going to pray in. Let's all close our eyes and take a deep breath. And as we breathe into this incredible energy of unconditional love, of gratitude, of awareness that we are all souls on a brief journey in the earth realm, we call on our guides, on God consciousness, and on the sacred energy of numbers to lift us up above our smaller selves, our ego stories, our limited understanding of our lives and of this world, so that especially today in this group, we will be able to really access the wisdom that our souls are trying to share with us constantly to help us navigate the dense realm that we call Earth. And as we lift our hearts and quiet our minds, we access that higher wisdom, which is the healing balm that allows us to move through this earth no matter what challenges we face. And so it is. So you all have to unmute when you speak. And I wanted to start by saying that today I'm so blessed to have some people who have studied numerology with me for more than 14 or 15 years. And I'm going to call them out: Anne, Lisa, and we have Suzanne, and Wendy's coming. And all of you started studying the numbers with me, gosh, way back in 2009, I think, if not before. So I'm just thrilled to have you here with me, my beloveds. And today I will be asking you to share your insights because you've been working with the numbers a long time now. And I know you all keep practicing them and studying them. So it'll be good for the other attendees to really hear how they've helped you. And one of the things that I wanted to share quickly is my recent experience with my health, because numbers were such a loving guide. I really think of numbers as the voice of God consciousness when we allow them to be that for us. And I'll give you some examples. In case you don't know the story, you don't need to know it, but on not even a month ago, March 20th, I was feeling pretty weak and I thought it was my heart. Everybody was all concerned about my heart because I have an aneurysm and a bicuspid valve. And so it was like this little decoy over here, and the cardiovascular guys were looking at it going, but we don't know why you're having all these symptoms. It's not ready yet to have surgery, and I was like, I don't know either. And I was still teaching classes, and the great fun part is I went to Sedona the week before this all happened, and I led a meditation hike up a big hill and did a guided meditation and numerology readings, and then went and taught a long in-person numerology workshop there, and then gave my best keynote of my whole life in Sedona that weekend, and then got in the car and came home and felt like I was going to die. And I'm a 22-4 master soul. And any of you 4 people here or 22-4 people here, one of our problems is that when we signed up for this life plan, we said, I want an enormous amount of strength to get me through this life. What I should have said was, I want just the right amount of strength that I know when to surrender. Now, that has been my new mantra, that I now have just the right amount of strength that I know when to surrender to the highest lessons. And this experience I've been through has been one of my teachers of that. And also what happened was I was quickly fainted, quickly diagnosed. And on March 22nd, again, I'm a 22, I was diagnosed with colon cancer, and big shock to me. And many of you know my first husband died of colon cancer. And so I was not only in shock, I was mad, as we get. And Suzanne talked me through all of this. Thank you, Suzanne, because one of the things we came to analyzing this from the soul was that I'd carried that trauma image, trauma memory of Paul's terrible suffering. And I know some of you have done this as well with your loved ones. I know Lisa has had similar traumas, and others of you have. That trauma of what Paul went through, it had still kind of followed me and haunted me. And oh, good, Wendy's here too. And so even Wendy was telling me this, and Suzanne was telling me this, and Linda Bachman, who trained me in soul regression, was telling me this. And we were all saying, this is my way of finally releasing it, because my experience is going to be different, even though I didn't know that for sure. I mean, I was suddenly facing surgery just like he did. And so I was really in my inner work then, because right before surgery, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to live through this surgery. They're going to take a big chunk of my colon out, and I just don't know what this is about. So then I started talking to my guides, and my guides were saying, and they even said this to me through Linda Bachman, who I adore, by the way, if you guys want to ever take training from her. Her name is Dr. Linda Bachman, and she runs the Raven Heart Center in Boulder, and she's been doing and training soul regression therapists for decades, and I was blessed to learn it from her years ago. So anyway, she said, what we're getting for you from your guides is that you've fulfilled your soul mission for this lifetime. And I had sort of been feeling that, and any of you who were close to me would know I had been saying things like, I'm just not sure what's next for me, because I did feel that in many ways I had fulfilled some kind of a contract. And to hear Linda say that was pretty profound. And then she said, and the guides are saying that if you want to stay, if you want to re-up, so to speak, you have to come up with a new plan. And I know some of you, like, yeah, I'm going to point at you, Suzanne, you've gone through a similar thing. I even helped you walk through that a couple years ago, where you went in and had an addendum for your guides. So that's what I had to do. And this was all before surgery. It was like after the diagnosis, there was a week before the surgery. So in that time, went to the guides and said, I do want to stay. I have reasons that I want to stay. Children are still kind of needy, even though they're turning 30. Those kids these days really need a lot of help to get launched. And I knew that my daughter wasn't ready to let me go, just getting her acupuncture career going. And Kai is really happy right now and in love. And I just didn't want to give them trauma at the moment. And Gene as well. Gene and I are so interconnected that I knew he wasn't ready for it either. So I just said, okay, so what's involved if I re-up here? And it became very clear that what I had to let go of was a certain way of being, thinking, and working. And it came down to my hard pushing efforts of my number 4 that drives my path of the 22. And also my detailed work of working with clients and doing such intimate, intricate charts for everyone. I mean, it's good to do that. And I bless all of you who do that kind of work. But I've done it for 20 years or so, and it just had become a load that my soul couldn't carry anymore. All of those client stories and helping them so much and having their charts and working with them that way. And so I was willing to let that go. And right now I'm only seeing one client a week, and I'm changing my whole focus of my business to be more of these group classes and workshops and readings. I'm doing a lot of group readings now. And so I had to agree to that, which I did, which took a lot of going through my calendar and blocking things out and rescheduling people. but that had to happen. The other piece was thinking differently about working. So we're selling our house here, even though we only got here in 2019 or 2018. We're selling our house and we're going to downsize again. So all of these were big promises that I had to speak out loud before surgery. And I'm just sharing this with you because, you know, the guides want to hear that you are serious. So I even had to get on the phone with a realtor, Jean and I did, and say, and fortunately, the realtor is one of my really good friends here, and say to her, Carol, as soon as I'm out of surgery, you're coming over and we're evaluating the house and we're putting it on the market. And she was like, yes, we'll do it. And then I had to get through my calendar and cancel a bunch of people and do all of that as affirmation that I was ready to change my life for the new life plan that would be coming. And numbers guided me again, because then on the day I was back in the first hospital stay, my room number added to the number 9. And I remember at that moment when I saw that 9 is the number of surrender, as we'll be talking about today. It's also the number of culmination of everything you've learned. And in that hospital room, as one diagnosis after another sort of came to me, and was given to me through all these tests, my only action was loving surrender through all of it, with the number 9 guiding that. And then when I went back into the hospital for the surgery, I was randomly assigned, while I was in surgery, they randomly assign you a room number. So they randomly assigned me, guess what, people, and we'll be talking about these numbers today, the room number 3311, 2 master soul numbers in a row, and I'm the 22. So it's like above my head was 3311 and I'm on the 22. It was like the complete master soul arrangement there. And everybody who'd come in my room, all my girlfriends, they were like, I can't believe the numbers 3311 are over your head, you know? And then you add those numbers up and they're the number 8. So 8 is our number of empowerment. 8 is the number that says, this lesson is about owning my power. And I'm going to find a way to own my power in it no matter what. So all through the hospital stay, you know, there were different little crises that always happen. And finding a way to have my voice heard in that kind of situation. And I know many of you know what I mean, especially even Suzanne. You know, that was part of my lesson. And then I was released on what digited to an 8-day as well, owning my power. And by the way, they didn't even want me to leave because my electrolytes were so messed up still. And I was like, no, let me just get home and I can get all this back in gear. And so I got out of there and began the journey of healing. But I'm here to tell all of you that there's always a plan. There's always a higher purpose. There's always something else going on than what we can see, touch, and feel. And I'm wondering if any of you would like to share anything, whether it's Suzanne or Lisa or Wendy, some of my brilliant friends, Anne, who've all studied and worked with me for so many years. Just unmute yourself and speak up.
Well, I guess I will.
Yay,
So,
Suzanne.
yeah, so you helped me so much. And I was on a podcast with you in August of 2022, I believe, telling some of my story. But I have been fighting for my life for 3 years, and you helped me so much. And in a past life regression, I had almost exact same experience as you, and you led me into that, where I had to totally change my life because I was done with what I'd come here to do. So I could leave. It wasn't like any horrible, harsh judgment or anything. It was all very sweet. It's like, if you want to, you can leave now and exit. And you've come here, you've done what you came here to accomplish, or you can stay, but you would need to change your life. And
And
I'm
you
a
did.
Yes, I'm working on it.
Well,
So,
you sold your business, right?
yeah, sold my business, writing my book, changing. I was doing dermatology like crazy, and it was keeping me from doing my better work, which is spiritual healing. So I'm still getting chemotherapy, and I have several months left of that and all that, but I'm getting there. But after almost dying 3 times and totally changing my life, just like you, and seeing beyond the veil and seeing how beautiful it is, but choosing to stay here in this life to do more work. And
Right.
so totally get your path. And I'm here because I just adore and love you, and I'm so happy for that you chose to stay with us, because in the whole world, we just need you. You're
Oh,
an
we all
angel.
need each other. And that was the other thing that was so clear to me, Suzanne, is that it would have been fine for my soul to exit. Like it would have been easier to exit, right? And I'll just share, I mean, I had lost so much blood by the time they were ready to do surgery. Like I was getting transfusions, and I was down to in the hospital what they call a 6.2 hemoglobin level, which Suzanne, means I have almost no red blood cells left in my body. So I'm not talking about this lightly as an experience. I was really at death's door many times in this experience, as you have been, but mine has been quicker. I mean, I feel like mine was condensed into less than a month. That's just so me, right? I always want to get things done very quickly. And but yeah, you're right. And I remember even thinking, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong and I can't stay. And there was a day in there where I was telling my children who were here helping me and everybody, I can't do this. I can't stay. And they were like, yeah, you can. We're going to get you through this. So it's not like it was all one happy, happy la la party. And I don't want to be giving anybody the impression of that. There was a whole lot of suffering involved because we are on earth. We still have human bodies. That is the thing. Our spirits are eternal. They are glorious. They are completely healthy all the time. They are free to travel in and out of the body, but our bodies carry the heavy, dense energy that we experience pain, fear, doubt, all of those things that all of us are way too familiar with. But I remember in the hospital having these moments where I'd be feeling horrible and I would be trying to shift my energy. And a little tiny thing would happen, like a nurse would come in and I'd say, tell me your story. And she would start to talk about her life. And I would start shifting to a higher place because now I was thinking of her in a client way, like, oh, I bet you she's an eight path, and I bet you this and that, and kind of back at work, so to speak. And that would shift my energy. So that is our only job here, that when we're bottomed out as we get, and that is part of being human, that we find our ways to start shifting our frequency to a higher frequency, because then we can hear the guides, we can feel the angel presence. You know, there was one point where there were angels all around my bed, and even my daughter was telling me that. Um, but it's up to us to shift our frequency so that we can see and feel and trust that. And that's the hard part here. Wendy, did you want to say anything and add anything? Because you wrote the most beautiful, wise comment about all of this when I was reaching out to you. You have to unmute, honey.
It's not that I don't want to unmute. I just don't know. I don't.
There you go. We can hear you.
I don't really have anything to add. I'm finding myself very emotional, actually.
Oh,
Um,
baby.
just to, I guess, to be part of this journey with you and to be an observer of how it's done.
Oh, but you're the example of how it's done, Wendy. Oh, baby.
Oh gosh, I just want to, I'm so grateful. I was so amazed and that you actually reached out after just going through this tectonic experience to even want to have a gathering.
Yeah.
And that's why I needed to be part of this. I needed to be part of this to not only hear your reflections, but to welcome you home.
Wendy, you're a beautiful 7-path Pisces, right? So when we talk about the 7 paths today, Wendy's a beautiful example of that, always analyzing, asking why, and finding the higher answer, the wisdom answer. And she's a gorgeous soul, and that's how she's navigated her life for the 20 years I've known her. All right, so anybody else here want to add any insight or questions? We have Anne and all kinds of other people here who've known me a long time. Anne, did you have any insights or questions? I think she might not be able to unmute. There we go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, Anne, yes.
I'm 3 minutes from home and I'm driving safely.
Okay, be safe and we'll talk to you when
Yeah.
you're home. Okay.
So it's funny that you reached out to me because I saw this thing happening and I put it on my calendar hoping I could go. And then you reached out and it was already on my calendar. So I was like, okay, that's me and Sue for sure, you know.
Yeah.
And I started with Sue in 2010, getting my first session, and there was a group of us that she tutored and mentored to become people that do
Numerology.
what Sue do.
Yeah.
Yeah, people that do what Sue does. And I've always been the one that's like, oh, who am I to think I know anything for anyone? And I would always show up at the group meetings, and I even flew out to Colorado to be part of a
Right.
grief workshop. And you know, but my self-doubt and self-loathing and self is just so undermining. And my whole thing is love. It's like, how can I love myself more right now? And even though I try really hard to hide from the world and to undermine myself, I just recently did 3 sessions.
Good.
And each person wants another session. And so I'm like, okay, God, I try to avoid doing this, but here it is. And I have a company called Life Supports You. And I always say, I'm its first client, you know. And then one little thing about the past life regression, I just did it recently with Sue. It was so different than I thought it would be. I mean, I thought I was going to find out why this, you know. And you know, we went through 3 lives, and my first 2 lives, I didn't have a body.
Mm-hmm.
And the first life, it took a little while to figure out what was going on, but I was inside of a rose.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm taking a watercolor painting class, and I drew the rose, but I hadn't gotten to paint it yet. And I kept avoiding painting the rose. And then I found out that one of my lives was, I don't know if I was like a piece of dew in the rose, and if dew has consciousness, I don't think I was above because I looked down and I didn't have a body. But I rose up from the inside the rose. It was the most beautiful pink, superb wrinkles of a hand, and then I realized it was wrinkles of the rose. And then as the sun came up, my little self got to the top of the rose, and I felt the sun. And you know, I still haven't painted the rose, but when I do, I'm going to definitely send a picture to you, Sue, because that was so powerful to realize that I had a total beautiful experience of pure consciousness from inside this rose.
Well, let me also share with everybody that yes, everything on earth has consciousness, and everything beyond earth has consciousness. And that is even talked about by the quantum physicist. And it's even the Nobel Prize was won this year by a quantum physicist talking about bilocation, which is the process of an atom existing in 2 places at the same time, the same atom, which to them and their studies means that consciousness is everywhere all the time and not linear the way we try to make it seem here on Earth. And this does have to do with our lives here, because we do believe we're just in this little one life track here. And it's such a small view. But the bigger picture of our soul is that we may be walking several different lives at once. That's very hard for our minds to grasp. And we may be in different kinds of life forms and consciousness experiences, but they are all feeding us today to help us live this best life that we're in the middle of. So it is a beautiful divine universe here. And this,
If you could mute me, please. Thank you.
yes, I'll do it. It is a beautiful universe that we live in, and I've talked about it in my books and Your Divine Lens. But it is really a beautiful universe that we are part of, and it is always functioning for our highest evolution, because our highest evolution helps everything and everyone. We are in a process of collective growth. Our souls, we are each of us connected. We are not alone. And every number, every sign we get is part of this collective energy trying to serve us, to help us, to encourage us to grow, and trust that whatever moment we're in, even a moment of devastating pain, is somehow serving our higher growth in the long run. And I work with so many grieving clients because I've often said that grief is the greatest heartbreak opener, makes us pay attention the quickest, makes us go, wait a minute, who am I really? Does life continue beyond the physical? And that is the gift of grief, is to be completely 100% sure that our loved ones have a consciousness that carries on way beyond the body. So we're going to start with the numbers, but first I just want to say one other piece of it is that in my experience, I also was very held by my father in particular. I have found that during a crisis, one of your departed loved ones will really step forward to be the most comforting one. And I think Paul knew I was kind of mad at him because he had always promised me in spirit that I would never get colon cancer. But I have to tell you, he fulfilled that, because they took it out and there was no sign of spread. But as I was going through it, I was like, Paul, you always told me I would never get this. And so he just kind of stepped back, like, okay, well, give it a minute, you know? And meanwhile, my father stepped forward. And my father was always so comforting to me when he was in body, and he's still so comforting in spirit. And he would be the one who would say, just relax, take a breath. And he would kind of talk me through the hard moments. But again, it's up to us to trust those loving presences when they show up. And another caveat, and then we'll get to work here with numbers, is all of this is working for our highest good, which means if anything ever scares you, either we're looking at it the wrong way or we've misinterpreted it, because it is a divine, loving universe trying to help us. And I will also say that includes other terrestrials, other beings from other galaxies, because we can't be so limited in our thinking to think that humans and Earth is the only populated place in all of these galaxies in the universe. And so as we embrace, finally opening our minds to the realization that we're not alone, then we have the question of, well, are these more advanced beings, or where do I fit in this? And here's what I want to say. This is still run by a loving God consciousness, infiltrating through every life form, including humans. And we may be one of the most least evolved. We don't know where we fit in that continuum. But the minute we recognize that we are part of this God force of love, of higher consciousness, it lights us up. It brings us to our higher awareness. It takes away our fear. So please trust whatever makes you afraid is an illusion created by the mind. And that when we quiet the mind through meditation and we work on trusting that divine goodness of this universe, we realize that even other life forms that may look scary to us are part of consciousness. They are part of our collective evolution. So if the ETs show up tonight, don't be afraid. They are consciousness just like us. And the loving God world runs through all of it. Light is greater than any darkness. I promise you this. And my daughter told me this one thing when I woke up out of surgery, because she was with me when I woke up, and I couldn't remember things I said at first. And she tells me that the first thing I said to her was, I said, Sarah, I saw the light and I saw the dark and I went to the light. And Sarah was like, that's good, Mom. Guess what? You're alive. We're so happy, And I was like, but I lost my awareness of that as I woke up, and I'm still trying to kind of go back and remember what that experience was. But I know we leave our bodies during surgery. We leave our bodies during coma. We leave our bodies during sleep very often. So all of those are times when we're going to talk to our guides, to talk to our spirits, to get more information. And we may often be seeing the light and the dark and choosing the light, especially when we really do get out of our bodies. So the greatest training we can ever have for any kind of crisis is always looking for the light. And Earth gives us so many ways to practice that, because Earth gives us so many bad experiences and painful moments and watching people behave terribly, but we have to keep looking for that light. So this brings us to the numbers, because the numbers offer us a way to find the light in the midst of our pain. And I'm just going to share my super duper, which I hope you've all experienced at this point. I hope, let me see, got to move this over. Can you guys see this, or did I mess it up here?
I can see it.
I can see it.
Okay, so you can see my soul path calculator. Is that what you're looking at?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
good. So this is the coolest thing on earth. And if you haven't yet done it, please do it now, because we're about to go talk about your soul path. So somebody throw out a birth date and I'll plug it in here for you.
Sue,
Yeah.
I would just
May 3rd, 1960.
All right, she wins May 3rd. And what was the year?
1960.
1960. Okay. 1960.
66.
Ah, 66. Got it. Okay. And then this is the current year, 2024. So then we hit calculate. So this soul is a Taurus 3. Now you want to pay attention to the stacked method, the single digit, and the linear. And I will call, when I talk to you about your path, I will ask you all three of those, because there's something to be learned in every way that it's added. But in particular, if this final number here is a 2 or a 4 or a 6, then in front of it could be an 11, a 22, or a 33, at least one of these ways. And that will tell you you're on the master soul path. So use this calculator, look at what numbers are in front of it. And then it's very important to look at your age. And the reason is Saturn return. This beautiful soul is in what we call the second